everyone, and welcome to the very first Man at His Best podcast. Now, this is a weekly look at some of the biggest things happening in the world of men's lifestyle, including updates from our very own website and magazine. Now, I'm Tom, the digital director of Esquire Middle East, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. After all, what would a podcast be without a co-host? Joining me today on this audible adventure is none other than the one and only, the editor-in-chief of Esquire Middle East, Matthew Baxter Priest.
Well, thanks for having me. That's quite an introduction you've given me there. It's one and only, very special. I'll take that. I'll take that every day. Thanks for having me, Tom. I'm excited to be here on the debut issue or debut recording of the Esquire podcast.
The first podcast. So let's give you a brief summary of what you're going to experience for this, our first ever Man at His Best podcast. First, we're going to give you a roundup of what's crossed our busy desks this week, be it fashion, lifestyle, cars, tech, culture, and a lot more. If it's big, we'll be talking about it in that first section. After that, we're going to move into something a tad meatier, because as you know, Esquire's been going for 85 years in magazine form, and we're going to be taking a look at one of the bigger features from inside the magazine this month, which is April 2018. Then we're going to be talking to a man, or a woman, but in this case it's actually a group of men, that demonstrates all the ideals that Esquire knows and loves. This week we're going to be talking to a band who is at their very best. In this case, it is Biffy Clyro.
It is them, yeah, absolutely. They had a recent gig here in Dubai, and so we sat down with them and had a little chat, talked records and thing.
But yes, so that's towards the end of the show. But yeah, let's just go ahead and start. Right then, so this is the news. So if, like us, your love affair with Ford Mustang began after its iconic appearance in the 60s thriller movie Bullitt, then you'll be in luck.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, the classic sports car has been redesigned by the Boffs at Ford, and it's going to be released later on this year in the UAE.
How many Boffs do you reckon they have in Ford?
I think a couple hundred.
Of Boffs? Do you reckon it's like on the name tag?
The design Boffs.
Design Boff team.
So the car was revealed at the Detroit Motor Show back in Jan,
yeah.
But it's kind of announced that it's be coming to the UAE just last week.
Okay.
So did you ever see the film Bullitt?
I did, yes. Oh, right, well, there you go. So your love affair started a lot after that.
But I do know that the original car, like the new one, came in a dark Highland green with gunmetal finishing, 19-inch rims, and the classic Bullitt front grille.
There you go. Yeah, no, it was a seminal film. But it's all about the car. It's a sexy car film. Now, I'm not really a car guy, but even I get excited at the idea of kind of these classic style, iconic cars rolling out, being reinterpreted. The news came out in January, as you mentioned, but the bigger news is that it will be available across our region very soon.
Yeah, so there's no exact prices, but let's do a multiple choice.
Okay.
Matt, do you think that the new Ford Mustang Bullitt will be A, cheap, B, affordable, or C, eye-wateringly expensive?
I'm going to go with B. I'll go with C, because C means yes in Spanish, and therefore the answer is just yes.
C.
C.
C. But again, we don't know the exact prices, but it will be comparable to a top-spec Mustang.
Okay, fine. So C. C.
C.
C. Muy bien.
Right. But again, that's going to be coming towards the end of this year.
Cool. Graham, can't wait.
Next news.
Second news story.
Move on to the second news.
Okay. Well, no, it's actually, this one is, again, very kind of regionally relevant. You guys out there, and Tom, you may have heard a lot about the Hyperloop. That was big news about 18 months ago when they announced this futuristic transportation system that was going to fling passengers from Abu Dhabi to Dubai in about 12 minutes. So, 150 kilometers in about 12 minutes. But now we actually know a little bit more information about it as the project starts moving on and gathering steam. When I say a bit more, I'm talking about the arrival date. According to the Hyperloop Transportation Technologies, the company, and its local partner, Aldar Properties, the 10-kilometer track, a 10-kilometer track will be in place by 2020. Everything's happening in 2020 here in Dubai, Tom.
Which is the Expo.
Yes, well, absolutely. That's why it's the big day. But it's interesting. It's just going to start as the 10 kilometers, and that'll be the testing thing. I imagine they'll be doing that rather quickly if times and speeds that they are throwing around are anything to go by.
Well, yeah, because the whole thing is you're supposed to go between Emirates in something like minutes,
Yeah,
not hours.
yeah.
Like there's a promo video which we'll dig out for those of you who are currently watching this as opposed to listening to it. But the video actually shows a guy working in Dubai's DIFC. He has a meeting in Abu Dhabi, casually checks his watch, turns up to some futuristic like Hyperloop port, boards some sort of magnet loop train-based system, which would be the Hyperloop. That's the technical term for it.
Right.
Magnet loop-based system.
Yep.
And then, yeah, flings himself to Abu Dhabi. Couple of minutes.
See, the thing is with that, it's just going to encourage me to be more late for meetings, or like to push it to the last. You know, I've got to like, I've got to be in Oman in like 25 minutes. And I'll be like, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know if you yourself have, but press events in Dubai are kind of known for not starting on time.
No, fair. Yes.
This.
I have been to a few. Yeah.
This potentially could push everything back even later.
But that's very counterintuitive because this is meant to be getting people there quicker. You know, cultural differences and all. But actually, what they have released is that the first route of the Hyperloop will run on land owned by Aldar, all the way to the new Al Ghadir community near the Abu Dhabi border. So it's a nice testing area, a lot of flat land, a lot of desert, out in the ways, out in the sticks, down there. But that's just the first step that Hyperloop are planning on doing in the UAE. The project will eventually extend all the way from Yas Island in Abu Dhabi. But yeah, so I think that the first kind of stations, the Hyperlink stations, or Hyperloop stations, will be kind of rolling out by Expo 2020. This is a global headline-grabbing story about the Hyperloop in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. It could change transport globally as we know it.
Could do
if they can come up with it.
I'm still waiting for jetpacks, but if this kind of comes in between that'd be fine.
I wonder if you're the Knoll. Will be done on Knoll card?
I don't know Noel personally, but
things of Knoll. I tried to renew my Knoll card the other day. It told me it expired. Didn't realize it could expire. So
you'll need a new Noel card then for this.
Well, definitely need a new one for this. We'll be fine on that. And I think that's it for the Hyperloop story, I believe.
So from transportation to educational.
Just go with education. It rhymes that way.
Education. Transportation to education. We'll cut that. This week, the 2018 Pulitzer Prizes were announced. And while there were many expected winners, including the likes of the Washington Post and the New Yorker, unfortunately, we missed out this year.
Well, I'm not going to lie. The application was made. I sent it, forgot to put postage on it. But,
So your fault then.
Well, I'm not going to lie to you. The history of the brand that Esquire has is for being at the forefront of investigative journalism.
Have they won Pulitzer Prizes before?
Not to my knowledge, but I'll have a look at that and report back next week.
Anyway, so one person didn't forget the postage, and that would be rapper Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, really?
Who you may have heard because he's so hot right now.
He's so hot right now.
Anyway, so the Grammy Award-winning album has received its very own Pulitzer Prize, which is almost unprecedented because every winner before him has been a classical or a jazz-based composition.
So he won the Pulitzer Prize for music?
Yes.
Right, okay. As opposed to investigative journalism?
Yes.
Okay. That would make a lot more sense. I didn't realize that he was kind of moonlighting as like a sleuth. Like a sleuth hack during the times where he wasn't on stage.
Well, in his new music video, it does feature him in a tree eating corn. One would surmise he was only doing some sort of investigating while up in that tree and fancied a snack.
Yeah, that would be a solution there. Why was he in a tree eating corn?
I don't know. Music videos these days.
Yeah,
let's ask a millennial. So even though Lamar actually didn't win Album of the Year at the Grammys.
Did you know? I thought I saw it. He won Rap Album of the Year.
I
watched the Grammys, Tom. All 19 hours of the Grammys.
Then you'll know that actually Album of the Year went to Bruno Mars.
I've heard of him, yeah. Okay.
Whereas the Pulitzer Prize, which obviously is more down with the pulse of what music is, chose Lamar.
Did you know that Bruno Mars now has something along the lines of 76 Grammys. That may or may not be a true fact.
How many Latin Grammys, though?
It's double. I think Latin Grammy, 2 Latin Grammys is worth 1 Grammy. Again, that is not a certifiable fact.
We'll check these for you next week.
How many Grammys? By then, Bruno Mars may have doubled the number of Grammys.
That's true. They do hand them out to just about anyone. Has Esquire won a Grammy?
I will again have to check that, but I would not see why we shouldn't be winning Grammys. But I will have to check that and report back to you next week.
All right.
In other news, Tom, the famed Dubai property, the Jumeirah Beach Hotel, is actually closing its doors. That's a bit of a shocker.
Yeah, that's kind of that's been, as long as I've been here, which is almost 10 years, the Jumeirah Beach Hotel has stood wave-like in structure, looking over the beach.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's an absolute Dubai hospitality staple. But basically what they're going to be doing is they're closing it for refurbishment. So the whole project's closing, 360, the bar's involved in it, the hotel, and all the food and beverage places. Because it's going to go under a new facelift. So that should be a bit of a shift there. I mean, the occupancy's always been good. It's been great for families. It's been a great location. It's one of those kind of iconic hotels there, but it deserves a little bit of a freshen up. And they expect to open doors again in October 2018. So we don't have to wait long. It's the summer period, basically. But the entire project's expected to take a couple of years as they roll out and finish everything. But fortunately, and I know you're thinking this, is the actual wave shape of the hotel will remain untouched. That will still be there. Which
is good, because that's it's become an icon, sat next to the other icon, which is the Burj Al Arab.
That's the one. Yeah. Well, I have here, it has 425 hotel rooms, and it's been open since 1997, which is before I came to Dubai.
So that's 21 years it's been open without a refurb.
I imagine they cosmetically tucked it here and there, but the quality of hotels and competition in the region now is astronomically difficult to deal with. So, the location's perfect, the reputation's fantastic, and maybe that's just what it needs to go forward for the next 20-odd years.
So what about Wild Wadi? And there's a big kind of beach club and gym attached to the hotel.
Yeah, as far as I know, and as far as the Jumeirah have announced, that Wild Wadi will remain open, and the Talise gym will also remain open. The facilities there are nuts good. They have that climate chamber as well, where you can run as if you were under the up mountains and for training.
So they have a climate.
They have a climate room, yeah.
Well,
no, they have a climate. They have their own climate. You can actually select the climate you want and work out in the gym there, so as if you're doing altitude training. That stuff is great. I'm glad it's open. It stays open. Plus Wild Wadi. Why wouldn't you want to go out in the summer in 50-degree weather and splash around in the outdoor swimming park?
I don't know why you wouldn't.
Good prices as well. Reduced summer pricing.
All right. Good.
You heard it here first, Tom.
Heard it here first. Right, cool. So that's the news. So I move on to the second segment, which I'm calling Inside the Magazine.
This segment will be a regular segment that we do on the podcast. It is essentially a look at what we have right here now. For those who are not watching us, I've just held up the April 2018 issue of Esquire Middle East. It's a strapping young man called DJ Khaled on the cover in an orange suit. You can't go wrong with it. It's chock full this month. But what we will do in this segment is we will highlight one particular feature and just delve into it a little bit more and break it down. So this week we are looking at, well, it's something I found very interesting. It was a trip I went on in January earlier this year, where I was invited along very kind of exclusively to Switzerland, to Geneva, to go behind the scenes of Rolex.
The king of watches.
Yeah, very much so. And for those who are not too kind of interested or aware of watches, we all know Rolex. It's a brand that stands next to, Coke and Ferrari and McDonald's and, you know, of global significance and relevance, and really kind of stands for something just in that kind of 5-letter name. But what you may not know is essentially being invited to Rolex is like being invited to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. You know, it's quite I call it secretive. They kind of told me that they were a more conscious brand. They're very kind of protective of what they have. They're privately owned, so they're under no kind of obligation to share facts and figures and stock prices and invite people in. And they generally tend to keep to themselves a lot. They don't like to reveal what's going on until they're ready. And to actually be invited there to visit not one, not two, but 4 different factories in different parts, or 3 in Geneva and 1 outside near the Jura Valley, is it's a bit of an honor. And it was sure eye-opening.
So I've seen Charlie in the Chocolate Factory.
Yes.
Not a lot of good befell a lot of them. But little Charlie, he ended up having the keys to the Chocolate Factory. Do you now have the keys to the Rolex empire, having survived the trials?
Well, this was the bit where I was going to announce why I'm stepping away from Esquire to go and run Rolex, purely on the fact that everyone else ate too much chocolate, and that bubbling candy that makes you go up to the roof, even though you were distinctly told not to touch any of it. So
congratulations.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. I'm a very proud new owner of a multi-billion-dollar watch company, world-leading watch company.
So what was the most impressive thing about your trip?
You know what? Actually, surprisingly, Rolex make their own gold, Tom.
What do you mean they make it? How do you can't make gold?
Well, yes, admittedly, but basically there's a thing called Rolex Ever Rose Gold. Now, basically what they do is they take 24 karat gold in one of their factories. They smelt it down, use it with an alloy to basically create an 18 karat gold, which then they use because of it adds more rigidity to the structure of it, because gold can be quite malleable.
Yeah, you'd wear it, you'd bang it, and then the watch would have a massive dent in it.
It's like when you have pirates,
yeah,
and they have coins made of gold, and they're biting on it to see if it bends and scratches off. That's how you know it's real gold.
That is a very good analogy.
Thank you. Thought of it myself. And yes, so the level and the detail of Rolex, I mean, basically all that is part of their vertically integrated system, which basically means they make everything that they do. Everything you see on that watch is made in-house.
What about the glass?
Except the glass and the screws.
The screws?
There's some couple of, well, not all the screws, but there's a couple of tiny screws that they outsource. But basically it was a big decision to make back in the 90s, where they took the entire watchmaking process. They had all their suppliers and everything, and they just bought out the companies and bought it all in-house. Therefore, they can absolutely, unquestionably guarantee that Rolex have approved and checked every single watch that comes out of their factories, with guarantees that they offer a thing called a superlative guarantee, which again is trademarked to them, and the only thing they're doing. It comes with a lovely green badge when you
Oh yeah, on the back.
Yeah. So but what that means is they're able to control the level of quality that they push to be irreplaceable and unchallengeable in the watch world. That's why Rolex has the position that it has. That's why it has the price point that it has, and that's why they say, that it is the best watch in the world, and it is the most kind of sought after watch in the world. It's the consistency. It's the volume that they put out per year, which they won't release official figures for. But I'm estimating, again, this is an estimate, of around 1 million pieces a year.
I think that's not, that's kind of a benchmark that a lot of people.
Correct. But if they're producing 1 million pieces a year, say, and the idea is that none of them have any faults, well, I guess that's where the value of Rolex.
Well, I guess what's the question is, so AP Audemars Piguet, they have stopped production at 40,000. I think they're going to up it to 45 over the next 2 years, but this is quite small. 45,000 watches isn't very much.
It's more than I have.
Well, yes, more than I have. But kind of, let's go into supply and demand economics. If you're not producing very many watches, but a lot of people demand them, you can have them at a certain price. Now, what I don't understand about Rolex is that they are producing not 50,000, not even 500,000. They're producing 1,000,000 watches and yet can still maintain incredibly high prices for that. There's no other company in the world that can operate at that. Even Apple has to produce certain models that go after market share. So why does Rolex do it? How does it do it?
I think it does it especially in some ways of holding back specific models as well. Look, they have heritage. They don't try to be too. They're very focused on what they do. They focus on specific lines, specific models, like your Rolex Oyster Perpetual, your GMT, your Submariners, your Daytonas. And each of these do have certain models that they make, a certain number that they make per year, which is why, a Rolex Daytona has a waiting list, especially in different models and different materials and different layouts. So they still have that want, that desire. They still build that demand. But then there's other products that they have otherwise. Plus, they have a massive range for women as well, and men, which a lot of watch companies don't tend to focus on both, or as much on both, or in volume as much as both.
That's fair.
So it's all that. And again, Apple's an interesting one to compare it to. Rolex is massive. It's a huge, huge company, and size and scale is very important in what they do. A lot of other watch companies don't have that luxury, even though they may be making, phenomenal pieces of watches. But there is a tendency in the watch market as well at the moment, to reduce the numbers of limited, to limit the number of watch releases so that they do retain value. The interesting thing about Rolex again is, anyone who's kind of been buying watches or secondhand watches kind of knows this as a rule of thumb, is that Rolex retain their value.
They do, which again is kind of unheard of outside of your independent watchmakers or your extremely rare models.
But I was genuinely impressed, said by the scale, but by the detail of it all. It was one of the interesting things I found walking around the factory floor is the number of actual the workers who work on the production lines and things, the number of them who actually have their own Rolexes. And that interested me because I'm pretty sure if you're working on a production line, you're not on a salary that can readily afford you to have Rolex. So I asked someone there, I said, do you give Rolexes to your staff? And a lot of them said, look, we offer them generous discounts, but they choose to wear Rolex because day in, day out, that's where they work. Day in, day out, they know the passion, they know the skill, they know the timing and the detail that goes into making them. And therefore they choose to, it's a personal choice for what you wear, but the people who work there are choosing to spend that much amount of money on a watch that they understand the story behind it, they understand the work that goes into it, and they get a substantial discount as well.
Do you think if you've been at Rolex for 30 years and they were going to give you a present, what would that be?
I really think it will be some kind of Swiss chocolate.
Fair.
Because what I also found out is Rolex, they like things all in-house, Tom. So they make their own chocolates.
They're a literal chocolate factory then.
Yeah. Well, Willy Wonka better look out.
Fair.
Right
then.
Yes, so going on with that, if you want to read more about my trip to Geneva and Switzerland to Inside the Watch Factory, you can pick up the April issue, DJ Khaled on the cover. The feature is called Inside Rolex, where we were given a rarely granted access to the watchmaking Goliath's factory, just to see the detailing that goes into it. I wrote it. It's probably fantastic. But then, I would say that I'm biased.
Yes, you are. You own Rolex.
I do. Do you want a job?
No.
No.
Right then, so now let's move on to part number 3. So last week saw the Scottish band Lego Ego.
No, it's pronounced Biffy Clyro.
Oh, Biffy Clyro. Land in Dubai for a one-off gig at the Hard Rock Cafe. So usually this band sell out venues that seat tens of thousands, but this was a far more intimate affair.
Yeah, if there's a reason why Tom is speaking like very considerately there, it's because Tom's not a big music guy. Neither am I, but I'm very well aware of the stadium-filling draw of Biffy Clyro. They're a Scottish band. They've been around for about 20 years, and it's high energy rock music, that anthem singing. It's a hell of a gig. And basically, their idea of having a gig, well, not their idea, but the idea of having a gig at Dubai's Hard Rock Cafe was a little bit out there because that fits about 500 people. And these guys are used to filling out stadiums with, say, 5,000 people or 10,000 people. It's a very intimate gig and something that is a very, very positive trend if Dubai is starting to bring in these mega bands for these very private, intimate gigs.
Yes, that's true. But again, as you said, I'm not super into music, which is why we sent our resident music lover, Greg Sinnott, down to talk to the band members before they went on stage. So instead of maybe waxing lyrical, why don't we just listen to what they had to say themselves?
Yeah, fine. Here you go, Greg. Take it away.
You guys have a big year ahead of you from what I've seen everyone else writing about. MTV Unplugged just filmed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A trailer for, or not, a soundtrack for a movie, which you guys are influencing.
Yeah, it's a strange, that's a kind of backwards way to do it.
And then obviously writing the kind of partner album to Ellipsis.
Yeah.
So how are you doing all three things at once?
I think we've learned how to balance things over the years, I guess. The most exciting aspect of being in a band, I think, is when you start working new music and you and the songs come alive. So it's been a really exciting few months, and it doesn't really feel like work. You know, the movie thing's really unusual because the director approached us and said he wanted to make a movie that was based on an album we made. So we've been communicating a lot. So basically, we're going to make the music first before he shoots the movie. So basically that's how the music is going to completely infiltrate and influence the tone of the script and everything. So that's why it appealed to us so much, because normally the movie's all finished and you have to fit music into it, you know, the appropriate emotions or you know. But we are.
It feels like we've got a little more control, you know, which is scary and exciting.
Because we could be the ones that ruin
it. But yeah, great opportunity.
Yeah, and Unplugged, we're 90s kids. We grew up in the 90s, you know, in teenage years, and Unplugged was such a massive cultural event then. You know, it's kind of hard to tell the kids of today what a huge deal it was, and for us to get asked, it's kind of, it feels like a nod to the hat because of the songs we have. You know, I think it's, they only kind of ask bands, I think, that they think are going to do a good job. So
to be asked at all, I mean, I think we thought somebody was pulling our leg. I don't know if we believed it at first, but it's hard to explain just what a big deal it is to us, you know, but I guess we made an effort there.
And I think it's nice for a band like us who we predominantly play really loud, really heavy music. It's really nice to kind of show that side of us, and I guess we must be maturing.
Not too much.
Yeah, not too much.
You guys have been doing this for nearly 20 years. You kind of hope you're getting to it.
Well, yeah, no, you'd be surprised, Greg. You'd be surprised.
So speaking of the MTV Unplugged thing, what are the seminal MTV Unplugged things for you? Like, who are the big bands that kind of you want to try and emulate?
I guess the big one's probably Nirvana.
Yeah, Nirvana's
the one for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
It's a fantastic record, that, and it's one that we used to cover that record. Actually, there's a cassette tape somewhere with a recording of us doing our best Seattle accents, doing all the dialogue and all the tunes. I guess that Pearl Jam one was a big deal for us as well. Alice in Chains, just all those bands around that time put on great shows for MTV Unplugged, and then it's only just come back, and to be asked to be one of the first bands to kind of do it, and from the UK, is just a real thrill.
Yeah, I think the special thing about Nirvana was, especially up until the moment they did that, they were just known as an abrasive kind of punk rock band for the youth. And I think it really cemented how good a songwriter Kurt Cobain was, and just how, I mean, it's easy to say now because it's 25 years ago or something, but how iconic those songs were, and even his choice of covers and the guests they had on. I just think for a band at that moment who were the biggest thing in the world, as big as Madonna or Michael Jackson or anything at that point, to kind of bring a band like the Meat Puppets that no one had heard of on to play, and covering a Bowie song that no one had heard, and ending with a blues classic. It was really inspiring to us as kids on the other side of the world, you know, because we identified with bands from Seattle because they were from a part of their country that no one really was looking to for any cultural influence. It rains a lot over there. They got a lot of drug problems and things, and it felt like a kind of mirror image of our part of Europe, you know, and so it gave us hope as teenagers that, you know, you can be from anywhere, you can do anything, and yeah, but the songs matter. The songs are the most important thing. I think that's what Unplugged taught us.
Speaking of the songs, are you guys doing any covers in your set?
Yes, we did. We ended up doing "God Only Knows" by the Beach Boys, which is a bit of a sacred cow. You know, we basically, because we knew the recording was going to be an album, and I didn't want us to do a cover song that in 5 years didn't mean anything to us. And "God Only Knows" was my first dance at my wedding with my wife. I've got the lyrics tattooed on my chest, and it just felt like it's got a piece of that song is in our DNA as a band. And as I say, I didn't want to listen to the record in 5 years or 10 years and think, why did we cover that song? So we took the challenge, and no one should ever cover the Beach Boys. We broke the cardinal rule. It's a cardinal sin, but yeah, it's a song that matters a lot to me personally, and I think as a band, it's a really important song to us. So we took the plunge.
That's great. So I mean, you guys have been doing this for quite a long time now. 7 albums behind you, potentially 8 and 9 with the the ninth album coming out, and then obviously 10 with the MTV Unplugged. What's been your biggest rock star moment in 20 years? Because let's be fair, rock stars don't really exist anymore.
They don't. I think hip hop has taken over that kind of role, and I think, you know, I mean, that's what happens. Everything goes in kind of evolutions and things and revolutions, and you know, it is I don't even know if we've done any particularly rock. I mean, Ben's been on roofs. That's always about one of my earliest memories, has been completely wrecked and looking up and seeing Ben on the roof of this hotel just going, that is a bad idea. Ben's like, yeah, king of the world.
There's been a fair share of shenanigans, that's for sure, but it feels like the idea of a rock star these days seems a bit bloated in a way. You know, there's something about it that seems a little out of date.
I know.
I think.
I remember approaching Ronnie Wood at some after show party, like, and I was such a mess, and Ronnie Wood was in great condition, and that was when I remember thinking, right, this is the wrong way around here. You know, Ronnie Wood was looking at me as if to say, "Oh, you poor young soul," you know. so that's, you know.
I guess the most opulent thing we've done was when we got the chopper to the private jet.
We got a chopper to a private jet,
did that.
which is
cool.
quite a good sentence.
Yeah.
That's kind of when you know you've made it.
Yeah.
And
But
I think just 6 months before that, Simon had made the joke, if you ever get a chopper to private jet, you know, lock me up.
like the rock and roll dream has come true. But
it happened.
I think also I guess the fear is these days, you know, people are a bit more aware of their behaviour, just got in the age of social media and things. It's killed that kind of angle a little bit, because people don't want to be seen to be assholes, you know, and because there's an awful lot of assholes in the world, and we want to try and get rid of as many as possible. So, you know, I think it's a good thing for humanity, but a bad thing for rock and roll.
That's very fair. Actually, I'm going to run into the quick set of questions that I have.
Yeah, no problem.
So these are quick fire answers, like short. If you want to expand upon them, feel free.
Perfect.
So best part about being in a rock band?
Sleeping late.
Yep.
It's true. That was always said. We wanted to start a band so we never had to get up early in the morning, and that's what's worked out.
Best city to play in?
It's got to be Glasgow, I guess. Yeah.
Hometown?
Although we haven't played Dubai yet. We haven't played Dubai yet.
Actually, yeah. Why Dubai?
Why
It's-
not?
Yeah.
I visited here with my wife a few years ago, and it's such a unique place in the world. I think, you know, it's really, until you've been here, you don't really understand, and it's such a cosmopolitan place. You know, that people from all parts of the world live here and work here, and yeah, I guess it's just been on our kind of bucket list for a while. And the great thing about being in a band for so long is you get to play so many places. We're off to New Zealand and Australia next, and we've been lucky to play Africa, you know, Far East, America, South America, and kind of the Middle East was the last place for us to really make an appearance. Whether you wanted to see us or not, we were coming. We were coming.
Well, it's sold out, so clearly.
Yeah, well, that's a good sign. That's a good sign.
So bigger venues or smaller venues?
That's impossible.
My ego says bigger. My creative side says smaller.
There you go. Go with that.
Well, yeah, you guys are playing a venue of about 1,000 people tonight.
Yeah, this is pretty wee tonight, but I think it's a different energy. We've kind of learned that it's a different type of show you play, so you're looking for a different kind of result. When you're playing to like 30,000 people or something, everyone's more exaggerated, and you want to really kind of feel like you're reaching to the back of the field or whatever, which can be quite
a long way.
quite a long. You need a long arm, go gadget arm. But I think in a small room, it's just like, it's about the whites of the eyes. It's like you can make that eye contact and you can feel the energy kind of spread in the room, whereas you have to kind of like put a blanket over a big crowd and kind of like, you know, smother them with your rock.
Yeah.
Nice good analogies.
Don't quote me on that. Smothered with rocks.
Having just come off it, unplugged or electric?
I mean, electric.
I'll go electric, but I do like sitting down. Sitting down is quite
get used
nice.
to that,
Yeah, in the
yeah.
next 10, 15, 20 years, I could see us sitting down a lot more.
What are your thoughts on fans getting Beefy Clyro tattoos?
Oh, it's amazing.
It's an honour, but it doesn't get tired at all seeing that. It doesn't get old. It's the biggest tip of the hat you can have is to somebody to brand themselves with their band.
Yeah, because I guess we've all done it. You know, I've got Nirvana tattoos, Guns N' Roses tattoos, and Tool and things, and they're bands that are such an important part of my life. So to imagine that our band is as important to someone's life, it means a lot, and we don't take it lightly, do we?
No.
Can you guys describe that first feeling you get when you step on stage?
Terrifying.
Yeah.
I still find it terrifying until we start. Like I think we're always slightly unsettled, and just until you get going, because it's weird after so many years of doing it. You would think that you're just so in the rhythm and you kind of trust yourself, but there's zero trust here. I don't trust these guys, and I don't trust myself.
So what was your first reaction when you first went on stage and your fans started singing back at you? Like, that's gotta be a unique one.
It's spine tingling, isn't it? I guess.
I think the time I remember most was at a festival in Scotland at Tea in the Park, and national festival where we kind of cut our teeth playing at festivals, and after a couple of years we made it onto one of the outdoor stages and one of those huge fields that never ends, and suddenly people started singing back, and it was just like this feeling of acceptance in a way, because we'd always, and still do in some way, feel like the outsiders. So to go into kind of bigger arena and have that support from the audience and what we felt like was our audience, you know, I think that was something really special.
Because it was kind of, I watched the Many of Horror thing for the MTV Unplugged today, and you can see people like miming along, and then you can hear a few people singing, and they're like, we shouldn't be doing this.
I know Unplugged's a weird one because everyone wants to be in their best behaviour, but you know, we wanted everyone to like feel like a part of it. The best shows are when you're all there as one. You know, that's the best shows, regardless of size of venue or anything or scale of gig. If it feels like you've all kind of hit the same level, and you know, then it's magic. You know, I wish you could kind of put that in a bottle and sell it, but we'd make a fortune.
So that is that. We do hope that you enjoyed the Esquire Man at His Best podcast. So you need to remember that we have new episodes coming out each week on Apple iTunes, SoundCloud, Pocket Casts, YouTube, and more, as well as hosting each and every show on our website, which is, of course, esquireme.com.
Yeah, and while you are mentioning that, remember to, or please don't forget to check out our YouTube and social media accounts for more daily goings on here at Esquire Middle East. You can find us at Esquire Middle East. Yeah, I mean, the content that we have coming out is relevant and exciting for all of you. So stay tuned, and if you want to know more about the largest men's luxury lifestyle title in the region, come sit with us.
Yep, so I'll see you next week. I'm not sure if Matt will be taking his throne at Rolex, but if that does fall through, then I guess you'll be joining me as well.
I'll come bearing gifts of the shiny variety, or chocolates. We'll see which one.
Perfect. So then, see everyone next week.
Oh, catch you later.